I'm excited to share virtual worlds with you today and later do a demonstration of the nanotechnology sim that's in Second Life. My name is Melanie Swan. I'm a futurist based here in Palo Alto. I'm doing a lot of work with virtual worlds at the moment, including for a local research lab in regard to virtual collaboration, and for the accountancy Deloitte in New York in regard to virtual asset valuation. So we'll be going through this talk. In summary, virtual worlds have become routine as a platform for use by both businesses and individuals for almost every type of recreational and serious activity. Like other new technologies, similar to, say, YouTube recently, virtual worlds are complementary and category defining. They exemplify the trend towards the more visual representation of data, interactivity, and the blending of the physical and the virtual. Virtual worlds are not new, and they're perhaps overhyped at the moment, but
they're not.
Not at all overhyped at the moment. But they have more possibility of persisting this time due to the number of participants as well as the breadth of applications. So today I'll first give an overview and review of the Metaverse roadmap, then talk about virtual worlds specifically, then Second Life, its demographics, activities, economy, governance, and advanced applications. And then we'll have a live demo with the team that has put together the Nanotechnology Island Sim from the UK's National Physical Laboratory. By way of overview, virtual worlds are just one of a technology, one of a 3D or virtual type of technology. Which can be seen in a broad umbrella as the Metaverse. So now we have lots of data, we have lots of graphics processing, we have lots of bandwidth, and so this is contributing to the capability and demand for streaming video, data visualization, and 3D data display. These are pictures of all of the different types of technologies. The biggest category is the more detailed capture of reality. And so geospatialization is the biggest category of this. For example, Google Maps and GPS devices. Geospatial sciences are actually one of the three biggest job growth categories in this decade. Increasing life capture, life logging, videoing your whole life. Augmented reality, which is the use of virtual technologies overlaid on physical reality for improved navigation. Simulation, there's a huge increase in the variety of areas that are using simulation as a means of prototyping and testing. And then persistent virtual worlds like Second Life, which we'll be talking about today. And Fab Labs and 3D printing is the development of designs virtually and then printing them in the physical world. Virtual reality 2.0 might start to include other types of other senses, biofeedback, such as this video game on the right, as well as perhaps later touch, smell, and taste. And then this whole area is really blended. There's a lot of mixed reality or blended reality. Here in the bottom right, we see a virtual world scene broadcasting in physical world video and then further annotated by virtual technology. So the Metaverse roadmap, roadmapping is a very useful tool in many technology areas. Leading industry that does this is the semiconductor industry. It's much clearer to them what the key milestones will be. Roadmapping is also used in nanotechnology, as we'll see the Productive Nanosystems roadmap tomorrow. And in the Metaverse, the Accelerating Studies Foundation came out with Metaverse roadmap as a culmination of a summit it had at SRI in May of 2006. This is basically what their roadmap is, a document which is a synthesis of survey questions into a series of narratives. There's an example survey question here asking participants how many, by 2016, whether U.S. law will require 3D worlds to verify identity, as an example. And then the narratives they synthesized into are different possible future worlds with augmented reality, live blogging, mirror worlds, and virtual worlds. However, this Metaverse roadmap document doesn't really articulate what the problems are, what the solutions are, and what the potential time milestones are for that. So that could be a room for improvement, and as something that we would look for also in the nanotech roadmap, which is actually a map as to where we're going and when. So coming to virtual worlds, the definition of virtual worlds is a 3D persistent world with a sense of presence and simultaneous experience in context. So the world is there even when you're not there. There are over 30 existing worlds currently, and probably 20 more that have some sort of funding. So there's a variety of worlds. They are public or private. Second Life is perhaps the best known and largest. However, Second Life only accommodates up to 75 avatars or sims in one region at a time. Active worlds, for example, another world, can accommodate up to 400 people simultaneously in a location. Entropia Universe is another popular world with many people, and the world there is a PG world versus Second Life, which is an adult world as well, and there are other worlds. What has been particularly successful have been the preteen and teen worlds. For example, Club Penguin was acquired by Disney for $700 million earlier this year. So now I'd like to describe a virtual world versus an MMORPG. And really an MMORPG, which is massively multiplayer online role-playing game, this is really a subset of virtual worlds, which is broader. A game is a very specific application where the world designers create the content and set up a structured hierarchy of goals. A world is completely open, just like our world. Users create all of the content. For example, this house, etc., is all user created. Second Life is the biggest virtual world. It's been around for about 5 years, and the number of user registrations grew from 1 million to 10 million in just the last year. So it really has the exponential curve recently. However, not all of those accounts are used all the time, and so we focus on active users as a better measure of what's happening in the world. And it's achieved a 40,000 avatar concurrency. This means any time of the day or night there are 40,000 avatars in world doing something. And about 500,000 active users in the last 7 days. In terms of the number of assets created today, there are about 2 million, and it's the users creating objects. 35 terabytes of user-created data is available on the servers, and 800,000 unique items are sold or traded per month. Here on the right is a measure of how large Second Life is. 800 million square meters of land exists. This is roughly the size of Boston. And the user hours right now are about 25 million per quarter, which is substantial. Who is Second Life? Really ordinary people are in Second Life. It's a wide variety in terms of gender as well as international diversity. Users are in many different age groups, and the older the users are, the more hours they spend in world. The types of things the types of applications of Second Life include entertainment. This is probably the largest. Many traditional brands are coming in world. We've seen this television season several traditional brands coming into Second Life, and then also the rise of interactive entertainment brands in world. Business is also very large in Second Life. Over 1,000 companies are reported to have some sort of presence there. Traditional companies such as IBM, Cisco, Best Buy, Geek Squad, and H&R Block, as well as conferences occurring in world being simulcast, and the rise of in-world businesses. So Preen is probably the best known retail brand that has been created in Second Life. Amy Weber on the right is the principal. There's also a phenomenon of the spokes avatars, and Pontiac signed an avatar, Callie Klein, as their spokes avatar. And she has actually won listing in Most Beautiful Woman magazine contest as well. The next category of groups using Second Life is academia, music, museums, libraries, and nonprofits. And there are over 1,000 universities with some sort of presence in Second Life, teaching classes and doing other things. There was a conference last May with 700 academic avatars present, and they had a full list of applicants for submitting proposals to present their papers in World. Also, museums are quite large, as well as nonprofits. The Nonprofit Commons hosts over 50 nonprofits in Second Life, and the Relay for Life on the bottom right is the American Cancer Society's event, which raised over $90,000 from its in-world event this year. Government, politics, and collective action also have a place in world. As we see, the U.S. Congress and the European community have a role there. Candidates have set up campaign headquarters, such as Hillary and Obama, and even the Davos Economic Forum had a protest. So everything that happens in the physical world has an analog in the virtual world. People are coming to Second Life for any range of activities, and including serious applications such as the Second Life Health Operating Theater. This is actually designed by the same people we'll be doing the demo with later, and a water treatment plant. So here are people interacting. They are building objects and structures, including, say, in the middle bottom is a picture of a house in the physical world that then was an analog attempt was created in the virtual world. People are designing neighborhoods and sims. This is an overview of the science lands that we'll be seeing later, the nanotechnology sim. People are learning and collaborating, having fun, and relaxing. Imitating life, the Burning Life analog to Burning Man is quite large in Second Life. International presence is well represented. Now, talking about a little bit about the technical details, there's a scripting language, Linden, LSL, Linden scripting language, which has a syntax similar to C. It's event-driven and has states, but not officially object-oriented. The whole platform runs on the Havoc 4 physics engine, and you have terminology is primitives. A prim or primitive is a 3D object, and so sims, for example, have a 12,000 prim limit when you're designing and building. Open source is a huge initiative in virtual worlds. The Second Life client is open source. They'll be open sourcing the server at some point. And the other important aspect is interdisciplinary standards. So IBM and Linden Lab are working on standards now for identity, or your avatar, portability, as well as transactions across platforms and platform stability.
Does it include physics?
The open sourcing?
Yeah.
This, not Second Life, it uses one specific physics engine for everybody, but there are other platforms like Open Croquet where you can design your own physics. Legally, the key rules are the terms of service, the community standards, the privacy policy, and the DMCA. Any object, any asset created by a user in Second Life is owned by that user. There have been some recent high-profile cases, including Eros LLC versus Doe. This is a copyright infringement case where essentially the user would, or the perpetrator would cause the sim to crash and then harvest the assets in the sim and then resell them himself. So it's a salacious case since the asset in question is the Sex Gen bed, which has 150 different animations. So it attracted quite a bunch of attention, the case. The other case is Mark Bragg versus Linden Lab, which settled recently, and this was regarding the use of a land bot, an automated system to acquire land. And self-governance is certainly occurring in virtual worlds, and so and then some sim owners have taken it another step forward and really created a whole constitution, an executive branch, and a judiciary and a parliament, such as this, the Confederation of Democratic Simulators here. We see them meeting in the parliament above. They've just had another election regarding their parliamentary representation, and they're celebrating their third-year anniversary there. So some organizations are getting quite serious about creating a new world in the way that they would like. The currency is the Linden dollar. It's readily convertible to the US dollar at about 270 Lindens per dollar. The economy is quite large. About $25 million per quarter is spent by users, and about $7 million per US dollars per quarter is converted on the Linden exchange. This is one way which Linden Lab, who manages the economy, makes money, and really their only tool right now is monetary policy for controlling the economy. There has not been an instance of inflation yet. Other aspects of the economy are Reuters, which has an embedded reporters in the world. It's a great validation of some of the things that are happening there, and they have their usual charts monitoring economic performance. Banks and stock markets have been are mostly just Ponzi schemes right now. They aren't really they aren't regulated. Their activity is generally illegal, and there are 3 stock exchanges, for example, that have 2015 and 3 companies listed on them, but it's early stage for these, and so not quite bona fide activity. Also, financial exchange platforms may be occurring. One of the largest real estate developers will be launching one of these to transfer funds between worlds later this year. And tax is an issue. For example, VAT tax is now levied on European residents who have Second Life activities. Land can be purchased or leased via auction or from other residents that have developed it. And generally, your presence could cost anywhere from, at the low end, say $75 a year, to at the high end with an island, $5,000 per year. I actually have a virtual office which I rent for $13 a month, sort of the analog to having a website, and so that's I find that to be relatively cost effective. And then you can, the world has grown substantially over the years. So now talking about some of the more advanced applications, we have the use of scale. So here on the left is the Dell XPS. You can actually walk into this machine and walk around it. We have also an example of a carbon nanotube that you can explore around, and a genetic structure. This is one way to use the medium in a new way. Also is data applications. So for example, a HUD is a heads-up display, and this is some sort of scripted object that you wear on your avatar somehow. It can be invisible, and when you go around dynamically to different sims, it provides information to you about where you are. And then the blog HUD allows you to take pictures and blog directly to the internet from the Second Life world. There are greeter bots, such as this one here, which have some sort of very limited animation activity when they approach you, not anywhere Turing test passing at all at this point. And then landbots that we discussed earlier, which is mainly scripts that search the database for available real estate and bid on it essentially quicker than a human can. Another application is this urban planning mashup in Brooklyn. People have brought in physical world mapping data and again used scale to make it large enough to work with and try different projects with. It's very easy to bring internet data into the world, and you'll see a variety of data displays that can be refreshed dynamically. And then the GeoGlobe, mainly coming from NASA Whirlwind as opposed to Google Earth at this point, but that's also very easy to bring in world. Another step of this is data visualization. And so in the top left, we have real-time weather data from NOAA coming into the world, and the weather is represented. It's a little hard to see, but there are some areas that are raining on that map of the US. Another example is bringing in real-time LAX airport data onto a map, and you can actually go in and walk around the planes and click on a plane and see UAL, flight, whatever. So this is another interesting use. If for really doing data visualization, Second Life is quite difficult to do that right now, and traditional platforms may be more appropriate. But for just a visual representation of something, Second Life can be quite useful. Another tool is the Babelfish chat translator, and that automatically, a lot of the communication takes place either via text chat or via audio. And so if it's via text chat, you can turn on the Babelfish interpreter, and if the chat is not occurring in your language, it will push it out to Google Translate and translate it back to you. So this is tremendously useful for international collaboration or even chatting with other people from other countries. And then the molecular resor down here is another example of being able to make a dynamic call out to the internet to a database and bring in and visually represent a molecule in world. Some other advanced data applications are, first of all, artificial life experiment going on in the Svarga ecosystem. They have a complete ecology that's running autonomously and generating the whole world, the trees, the clouds, the sun, the rain, the animal life, etc. So that's an interesting application. Then we also have some artificial intelligence applications developing, and Ben Gertzel is going to be talking about that further. This is having pets in world that have some sort of autonomous activity. Basically, cues from the environment are passed out of the world to some sort of prediction database or prediction application, and then translated back in world to the behavior of the pet. Other applications include this Ulyss is a Swiss construction firm, and it has SAP integrated and brought into Second Life. And where they do real-time monitoring of their construction projects, including the energy consumption in the areas. And then finally, a visual representation of identity information. And so right now, most people represent their identity in some sort of humanoid form. But it would be quite interesting to actually represent other aspects of identity, such as value system or preferences or physical world activities. So what if all of your credit card purchases were mapped to some sort of visual representation in world that indicated how green your value system really is by your behavior? These types of things haven't really been played with yet. And so what's emerging so far is that in step one, people replicate the physical world. They make copies of things that they're familiar with. And then in step two, they start exploring more interesting, divergent types of ideas. There is a lot of identity porosity and exploration. So people feel that their avatar it's a representation of them, but it's also somehow a separate person. And they may have multiple avatars. There is a lot of visual homogeneity. Avatars look more the same than people do in the physical world. So this can be an interesting precursor to once we can modify some of our own physical parameters, such as height or hormones or whatever, maybe homogeneity, everybody sort of drifts to the middle. And then there are new forms of communication and collaboration are evolving, such as in Second Life, you're all in the main area, but then you can have multi-channel individual side conversations that aren't disruptive to the middle. And the mainstream social reaction has been sort of interesting so far. Some people seem to feel that somehow virtual worlds are different and more offensive than other leisure activities for people, maybe some sort of implicit rejection of the physical world. So what's next? We'll probably see a lot more activity in terms of hours and participants and types of applications in virtual worlds. We'll see more structure around the open source initiatives across worlds, several legal, security, and economic initiatives to make the worlds more stable, as well as more tools. So we need better search, we need a directory system, we need a Yahoo of the virtual world. It's very hard to find things right now. Uniquely identified objects in a way that's not possible with, or is much harder to put an RFID tag on every physical world object. It's quite easy when you make a virtual asset to put a unique identifier on it, as well as have a geotagged photo system. So right now when you take a picture in world, it should just come with its location, but that's not part of it yet. So in summary, first, virtual worlds have become routine as a platform for all forms of human activity. Second, like other new tech, they're complementary and category defining. Third, that they exemplify the trend for increased visual representation of data, interactivity, and the blend between the physical and the virtual. And then finally, are not new, but are more likely to persist this time. Slides are available open source on my website and also linked on the conference wiki. And I include some resources for more follow-up. And so with that, we can go in world.
Melanie,
Uh-huh.
what did you mean by homogeneity between avatar and object again?
Oh, avatars. Everybody looks the same. Everybody, not everybody, but seems like 80% of the people are 20 years old, as tall and fit as they can be, and as beautiful as they can be. So.
But they're also like aliens and really weird things.
Yeah, with another 10% or so. So yeah, some people are playing with identity more than others.
Yeah, there's definitely more diversity than in the physical world. There's less diversity of bust size.
Yeah, in fact, you can't even, I try to make my avatar as flat as possible. There's not even, you can't even do that. Not even the men are, anyway.
You gotta pay extra.
Okay, so let me introduce.
Female avatar.
Can people read the chat?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Can't
Okay.
read that.
That's probably too small. Let me bring it back here. And it'll be there for now. Okay, so this is Davy Commerce. In real life, he's in London. He's with the National Physical Laboratory. It's a UK organization. And he is really the founder of the whole Scilands complex. It's 34-island international interdisciplinary science community in Second Life. And he is the founder and designer of this sim as well. He has a bachelor's in mathematics and a master's in psychology. This is Troy, in real life, Troy McConaughey. Here is Troy McLuhan, and he is one of the main builders in the sim and also a founder of the world. And there's also Tara 5.0, who works with Davy at the, please move forward if you'd like to, works with Davy at the National Physical Laboratory. So they're going to, and we're standing here in the nanotechnology sim, and they're going to give us a demo. And there is audio enabled in World, but without speakers, it's not useful for us to use it here. So Davy is saying, hi all. I'll just turn over here. In this building, they have all right, so we're going to go over here and visit some exhibits over here, and they'll come and show us. This is a buckyball exhibit that they've made. And there's also a Sims a microscope information exhibit here. So they have principles of secondary ion mass spectroscopy. And so they have some information here just about how this is used. This microscope involves firing energetic ions onto a surface, and they collide with the target and allow imaging. It's very surface sensitive, and so there are two different techniques used. Here's a sample, and we're going to fire a bismuth ion onto it, which comes down and comes through. Also, the sim is described a little bit down in the chat. And so the issue with the bismuth ion is that it's very invasive and can hurt the sample and only allows information about the surface chemistry. And this, sometimes things take a little while to resolve or to res in. what I'd like to show now is a different method. We have our same sample, and this time we'll be using a buckyball molecule to come down and image the sample. In this case, it's less in, it can image not just the surface chemistry, but also aspects below it. And so especially with something like nanotechnology, it can be very useful to make a demo of what's actually happening in this dynamic situation.
How long took it to create these type of demos?
Okay, let me ask these guys. And in this building upstairs is an auditorium and another lab, and then down here are exhibits. And by the way, I should mention the UK's NPL has just announced a NanoLands challenge. They're providing $400 to $700 per project to anybody who wants to develop a nano-based sim exhibit here in World. Okay, so they're already in the lab, and I'd like to just, before we go in there, there's another sim here that's the principles of the atomic force microscope, which is another type of microscope. And then I would like to actually, they talk about it a little bit more here as well, and they have a map here going from 0.1 nanometers up to 100 microns, and what types of microscopes are most appropriate to image materials. And so providing just very simple information up to the full chemical composition. And the AFM is used at smaller sizes and for less information than the SIMS microscope, which is used for slightly larger sizes and more detailed information. Okay, so they're still asking each other about this. So now let's go into lab. Let's stop flying. So I thought these guys might be describing things more, but they seem to be just here. So in the lab we have a couple things. Well, first of all, it's a nano lab. We see perhaps a Drexlerian molecular input resources coming in on the wall here, and a variety of other experiments.
So he just replied to your question, I think, and he said like 2 weeks.
Okay, 2 weeks including feedback and modifications. Yeah.
So the animations created with the in-world software, or is it separate?
People usually make it outside and then upload it. Well, for some things, and then other things you have a script that animates objects in world.
Yeah, it depends on what you're doing. To animate avatars, there's Poser and Avimator and a bunch of tools. You create an animation, save it in a certain kind of file, and upload it. To make virtual animals, for example, there's no third-party programs to do that. So you have to basically make your own custom LSL scripts in World if you want to animate something that's not an avatar. Just because no one's built tools for that case yet.
So here we sat down at the Sims, and we're just looking at these, analyzing these samples. So this was giving us the spectrum of this cup of tea, and also popped up a note card to tell us a little bit more about it. There's another sample here. And if you click on different aspects of different parts of the microscope, it will also describe it. So that one, you can also image that other thing, but it doesn't appear to be working very well. So let's go over here. And then we can image this sample of liquid. And this is actually a polymer blend like it's described on the wall. And again, describing more, we could always look at this later. These are some nanoparticles we can image.
Melanie, would you say the user interface is still lacking?
Yes. So for some reason, we're not able to image multiple things at a time right now. What's the time? Let's try one more.
Yeah, since they've opened up their client, any of you here who are graphics programmers can feel free to provide a prettier rendering. But I think what makes the rendering more complex than in an MMOG is that the content is created on the fly by users. So you can't distribute a CD or a batch download all at once with everything people will have to see. Some guy in Croatia may have created something new, then you have to download it a second later. So they actually have to transmit more information than is needed for an MMOG.
Is this designed to work dial-up as well as?
Definitely not.
No.
Needs high bandwidth, and it's very demanding in your graphics card. Actually.
Yeah. So I'm just asking them, that's a fairly accurate copy of one of the labs at the NPL.
So do people who use it a lot wind up making that stupid gesture with their hand while walking around in real
Yeah.
life?
Yep. So they have the same sort of lab upstairs, but they have the additional step of you walk through something that puffs you to clean off the particles when you enter it. All right, so now we'll take a look at some of the other parts of the sim. And they've just launched this a month ago, so it's they're definitely still adding to it. So then out other parts of the sim here have a Newton's apple tree here. And okay, now let's go to the amphitheater. What color? Okay. So we're,
Can everyone fly in Second Life? Like, can just jump off?
yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh. So it's a quick, so you can get around, you can walk, you can fly, you can teleport, so there are different ways to get around. So here's one of the amphitheater areas where they have lecture series, and you can, I'll give you some blog listings so you can find out about events, etc. So next we can go back here, and notice on the top right is a mini map. It shows where we are. We're yellow, and other people are green, so you can identify who else is around, other avatars that may be around. So this is an exhibit built by some other people in regard to nanoparticle filtering and monitoring. So they have a monitoring station here. And I'm not sure if they're doing some real prototyping and simulation for how this could work in the field, or not, or if it's just a sort of a visual representation.
They should plug in a nanoscale physics engine so you can feel your avatar being pulled around as if it had been made nanoscale.
That's right. That would be great. Okay, so this is part of their work with the National Physical Laboratory to monitor the air quality across the UK. Nanoparticles are in the atmosphere anyway. And some of the sources are here. Do you guys have any questions for the other avatars?
And if there's an event, is it possible to record that event?
Oh, yeah. I haven't. Yes, there are a few different organizations that do. Did you ask that question?
Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to answer you direct.
Yeah.
So there's a Second Life news network, SLN, I think SLNN, and there are so there are a variety of monitoring, recording. So often when you're at a conference, they may provide a transcript of the chat as well as a video feed. And so, for example, there is an economics series called Metaverse, and they are providing video links with all of the proceedings. So yes, it's very easy to record things.
So there are 32 islands altogether?
The Cyland sim has 34 islands altogether.
And is each one like about like 1,200 per month to rent?
Yes. Yeah, well, it's 1,600 to buy plus 300 per month,
So they're
essentially.
putting in like 50, 60,000 per month to do this exhibit?
Yep.
Wow.
So who's
Plus-
funding
The
it?
Cylands are funded by the National Physics Laboratory in the UK. It's sort of similar to NASA in some ways. It's a governmental organization. So here's the, and IBM is probably one of the biggest spenders. They've committed $10 million to virtual worlds. I'm sorry, $100 million to virtual worlds and $10 million specifically to Second Life. Although probably most of that money is more for supporting their staff that's working on the project than the actual purchase of land in the sim.
Can you die in this?
No. Although there are at least 3 sims in Second Life which have enabled that as part of the role play. But no. It's
There's combat, right? So it's-
in some sims, and different sims will be more designed such as a video game. Okay, so this museum they're just still working on. They have some water exhibit, crystal exhibit here, and then it's also some about the human body, and some hemoglobin. Yes.
So what you said there's no like, Google or Yahoo on this right now. So there's no way to say, hey, what is there in Second Life that can tell me about snowflakes?
Yes, search is very poor at the
Use
moment.
Google itself, actually.
Yeah, and the one problem is that it costs money to put your sim in the directory listing, in the in-world directory listing, and so sometimes people don't do it. And so consequently it's quite difficult to find things.
So where would the funding, if there were no such thing as Second Life, where would this funding go? To make a museum or something? Or what?
Or other data visualization, virtual prototyping, public outreach type projects.
Or to useful research.
Okay, so here we can look at metal grains in a bridge cable.
So they do have sound.
Yeah, it does have sound, and so when you attend an event in World, it may be done by chat or it may be done by audio. And if you're doing a conference, you would definitely purchase audio video streaming so that you could stream that conference out to the physical world.
Do they podcast?
Create an audio file of seminars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also. Okay, so he's just been saying here, one of their objectives is to show how the nanoscale affects the real world and make it more accessible to the public. Any other questions for these guys at the moment?
What's the traffic in these worlds?
Well, we can ask about the sim. And you can actually get, for example, I have traffic sensors in my sim, so I know who's been there and doing what. But the in-world traffic, actually, you can see.
Do you have your own island or just an office?
I just rent an office on the mainland, the $13 a month model.
Cheaper.
Yeah, and I can upload PowerPoints and have meetings and all kinds of things.
So what's the projected volume of traffic increase in the next year or so?
So this, so when you look up a place, it shows you its traffic, and I'm not sure exactly specifically what that means. 253 avatars in the last week, or what time period that is. But say we look something else up. So here, the science school has much more traffic. Other places. So if you're looking for something, you might.
Star Trek Museum of Science.
There is a lot of crazy stuff. And I'm sorry, you're wondering what do you think? You're wondering if you have a sim,
I mean,
how
if
would
you
you
let's say
estimate
you
what your
wanna
traffic could be?
interact more, let's say like Dan has his avatar and he wants to interact more, you gotta look up
Oh, so
where you're gonna actually locate people who actually interface with your.
oh yeah, so you can. So there are certain areas that are extremely well trafficked, like the Welcome area or Help Island, and so you can go if you're specifically doing an experiment. You can go there. There's another guy, David Orban, who's doing a genetic algorithm experiment where he is going to put out 100 versions of an object and see which ones are more popular and evolve the genetic algorithm that way. And so he'll be putting his items around in well-trafficked areas. There are lots of other retail areas, other freebie areas. So there are you can definitely identify some high-traffic areas. So they have been saying.
Do you know how many people are on Second Life at any given time? And how
Yeah, when you log in, it shows you right now, but it's about 40,000 at any time, day or night. It's 60% international.
But like 5 million people are signed up, but only a minority come
Uh-huh.
back.
And about 500,000 have been active in the last week or so. So he's saying they're making events, or they're making permanent content in Second Life. They've been getting a lot of traffic since they haven't really opened yet. 5 or 6 people are signing up a day for their meeting notifications list database. And the project is being grown rather than launched. It's still very early.
So what is the, like, for conferences, what is the advantage of this over teleconferencing or?
It's more fun, for one thing. It's extremely fun. I've been surprised how much I use my virtual. If any client I'm dealing with is involved with Second Life, I always prefer to meet with them there. It's just more fun, and you can discuss all your usual regular business, and it's just more fun. And the other benefits are perhaps a greater, a more intense richness of interaction and collaboration, and so you can share objects, you can work on things together in a way that you can't on just a conference call, for example.
Yeah, so like when I was using my avatar and my wife was watching me, Susan over my shoulder, she was like telling me, "Don't bump into that person." Like she was in it. And that's experiential as we've evolved, to sort of, and that's the fun aspect. I think you just experience it more.
How do you get your PowerPoints into
This is also not ideal yet. You need to make an image of each slide. I'm sorry, was it you that? Oh, okay. You need to make an image of each slide and upload it. So it's not
and put it
ideal.
on some kind of display.
Yes, yes,
Is
and
that your laptop you're using, by the way?
yes.
Because the thing is, like, if I came to this world fresh out with nothing in the cache, it would be like all these large gray blocks with nothing on them, and then like slowly download the info. And like it can be a little bit just frustrating for like first time users and things.
Yes, and so that's another thing. If people are not familiar with gaming or other similar types of applications, they can become very frustrated, and particularly Mac users, because you do a lot with the mouse, and for some reason the Mac mouse is different and not as easily adapted. So it's just a little more learning curve, and so what a lot of the professional developers do that work with traditional clients will have orientation and other ways to introduce people to Second Life. And you're right, Michael, the processing power required is substantial. You really need a broadband connection and a good graphics processor.
To what extent is the world stored
It's
client side?
it's all stored. Your client is local, and all your assets are server side.
Say that again?
Your
all
client's local, and all of your assets, inventory, objects, etc. is all
But I mean,
server.
there's no client side version of the map or the basic layout.
No, it all comes from
Everything
server
is-
calls. hmm
How big is the cache folder on your? Like
Oh,
how
my
large
cache?
is it to be? Yeah, the cache.
It's not that big, but it's not.
Not a problem.
Yeah, it's not a problem. The more the issues are around resing in the sim that you happen to be in. So here's another. This is a Skydatorium, and this is where they have other events. So let's just check in with them. They've been saying. From other sims on Skylands, they get between 300 and 2,000 visitors per week. And they're organizing a regular seminar series where speakers will speak here. And they'll be having a conference in February, a 2-day conference. And this theater can sit 140, however, 75 is really the limit on the number of avatars that can be in a sim at a time.
Can anyone create objects in here or no?
Anybody can create them, and you don't need to own land to create objects.
Specifically in this area, can you?
No.
Okay.
You need to be in a public sandbox or your own land to create an object, or a designated area like a classroom area, but your objects stay with you in your inventory, and so and you don't need to own land as a place to store your. Okay, so here, this is methane flowing through a carbon nanotube. And there's a video here. So again, they give us more information. Often there's a web link at the bottom of these. Oh yeah, he's just saying that the movie's not there. Anyway, we should start to wind down, so let's see if we have anything else with these guys. Any remarks or comments or?
So what's the average amount of time people spend on it?
On Second Life? Oh,
Yeah.
in the big 5 countries, it's about 60 hours a week.
60
Yeah.
hours.
I'm sorry, a month. 60 hours a month.
60 hours a week. Full-time job. Yeah.
How many people are working on building this full time?
This sim here?
Yeah. No.
They have it. They have 20 people authorized on their land to create that I noticed, and they're working with a firm called the NMC, which is the New Media Consortium, which is sort of a web developer, 3D web developer, and that's who I've seen on the sim developing it. So they have high-level people like Troy and Davey and Tara doing some of the design and oversight, and then other people implementing.
But that shows that it's too challenging for like these scientists to learn how to create all these complex.
It's not challenging to learn how. It's just a
It takes
time-consuming.
a lot of time.
Yeah.
So it's actually easy to use the building too.
it's not a good use of time.
Large colored cubes and circles.
I mean, it's a lot easier than using Maya or some real 3D modeling software, but it's still, most scientists have spent all their time writing grant proposals and the time to build little college students.
So where is this going, like, in the next 5 years? What's the next big?
Oh, probably more traffic. I mean, there are a huge plethora of worlds. There'll be more integration across worlds, portability of your avatar and your items and transactions, and probably more uses. I mean, as I mentioned, it's really not a good platform for traditional data viz. Data visualization, it just doesn't work. Often you don't really even need 3D for data. It may not be appropriate for a variety of reasons. But I see virtual worlds as being a complementary and new category for visually representing data, not in the hugely quantitative data viz sense, but representing things, and as well as all of the collaboration and interactivity. It's huge for business. They are recruiting and replacing business travel, doing outreach and marketing to clients and that kind of thing.